Having had the opportunity of helping lots and lots of families relocate here into Sacramento, I'm gonna let you in on a little bit of a secret. Most people are not moving into central Sacramento. Typically, they're looking for a slower pace of life, highly rated schools, new construction homes and development, and just an overall great place to raise a family. That's why in this video, I'm gonna show you guys the top 7 suburbs that I'm seeing people move into versus the rest of Sacramento. Hi and welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam Galovi. I'm your local real estate pro here in Sacramento. This channel is dedicated to people such as yourself that are looking to know more about the Sacramento region. So remember to hit that subscribe button. Now let's get to it. So if you're watching this video, you've probably at least looked at a map of Sacramento and are probably deciding where you want to live. Well, there's a lot of choices and it's pretty vast here. But one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break down the top 7 suburbs that I'm seeing a lot of our clientele and people in general inquire about. But what I'm gonna do in this video is I'm gonna break down these top 7 suburbs so at least you have a good understanding, and maybe we'll have some more clarity by the end of the video on where it is you may wanna live. All right, so let's start off with number 1, Folsom, California. This is probably in one of the top 3 areas that I get asked about all the time with people looking to move into Sacramento, and rightfully so. It's got highly rated schools, it's in a great location, it's got tons of shopping, and of course, a lot of new construction homes. So I'm gonna show it up here on a map just to kind of give you an idea. So if we were gonna be going up Highway 50, going east, Folsom would be right here, and it's really just south of Folsom Lake. Now, one of the top areas that I get asked about in Folsom is not just Folsom itself, even though the older established neighborhoods of Folsom are still really highly desirable. A lot of the times when people are looking to move into Sacramento, they're looking at this newer part of Folsom, and this is a little bit different than the rest. Now, the area we're going to be focusing in on, where a lot of the new construction is going to be Folsom Ranch and Russell Ranch. So if we're going to be taking East Bidwell exit right here, all this right here could be kind of this newer development that's going on in Russell Ranch and Folsom Ranch, okay? So all of this is kind of south of Highway 50 here. And so as you can see here, this is where you're gonna see a lot of the big builders coming in. You got Toll Brothers in there, Taylor Morrison, you got a bunch of Lennar, KB Homes, Tri-Point. A lot of the builders, a lot of the new construction is really gonna be in this area right here. Now, one of the things that makes Folsom stand out compared to other areas is that it's also going to have a ton of shopping. So like the new construction area that I just showed you right here, if you were to come in and zoom in right here, I mean, off East Bidwell, you have kind of Costco, you have Palladio in this area, and all around here is just all the shopping that you could want. If you're an adventure enthusiast, you could go to places like REI, you could go to Green Acres if you want landscaping. I mean, name a store, they probably have it. But not only that, you also have the Folsom outlets. So this is going to be an area where a lot of people will also go shopping if you're into the outlets. And so that's actually what draws a lot of people into Folsom. Not only that, you have a lot of great restaurants. One of my personal favorite sushi places in Sacramento is Mikuni. They got it here as well. So there's a lot of great places to eat, and I'm sure the people living in Folsom would agree with me. Now, just to kind of zoom it out as well, some other areas you may want to consider if you're thinking about Folsom. Anything basically north of Highway 50 running right here, all this area right here is going to be kind of older and established. There is some pockets of new homes here and there. Folsom's also kind of considered a more expensive area to live versus the rest of Sacramento, so just keep that in mind. And with that, you still have semi-custom luxury homes being built once in a while as well, where people buy a lot and build a custom home. So that's not abnormal to see. But when we're talking about kind of like your standard suburb living, there's a lot of opportunity here. Like this area, the Parkway is a beautiful place to live. I personally like anything in also Empire Ranch and closer here to Folsom Lake. That's just personally a preference for me because I love being close to the lake and all the trails that it has to offer. Some other great things you may want to know about Folsom, California is it does have a prison, which some people get a little bit weirded out about, but I would say overall it's considered a pretty safe place if that doesn't bother you too much. But aside from that, one thing that's pretty cool is that you also have the historic or like the downtown district of Folsom, and we actually did a vlog on that a while back. So if you'd like to see what that looks like, it's definitely like an older historic feel to Folsom. It's very different. but it's really a cool little spot, especially during Christmas. Sometimes they have like an ice rink out there. It's a really cool place to hang out with the family, go to little boutique shops, or even visit a restaurant. But really close to that area is going to be also Lake Natoma. So Lake Natoma, in my opinion, is a little bit of a hidden gem. So originally this area was the American River, and if you look at it, it does look like a river, but it actually flows down from Folsom Lake here. And this is just a great area with lots of trails for biking, walking, but also in the summer, paddleboarding and just water kind of activities. This is a great place to be. So this part of Folsom is really hot. It gets a lot of activity during the summer months. But on that as well, you have the American River Canyon neighborhood. That's going to be like an older established area, but really nice, beautiful homes there. It really is a different living compared to the rest of Folsom. So that's another top-notch area that a lot of people look into when they're thinking about moving into this area. So I mentioned before in the video that one of the attractions to moving into the suburbs is going to be the schools. And in Folsom, you're going to be part of the Folsom Cordova Unified School District. And one thing that mainly stands out about all that new construction that I showed you in Folsom, like in Folsom Ranch and Russell Ranch, is because there's actually newer schools in there. You actually have 2 new elementary schools, some newer middle schools coming in, and a new high school expected to be built down the road. So that's a huge attraction point of why people may be choosing to live in that newer construction side versus some of the older established parts of Folsom. But generally speaking, they have some highly rated schools, so definitely check that out. And I would say that's one of the top reasons people are choosing to move into Folsom. Now, since we are talking about real estate, when it comes to resale homes or established homes that are available on the market, this last month there were about 117 homes for sale on the market. Now, even though that's not a lot to choose from, the new construction definitely is adding a lot more inventory that's typically not reflected in the market sales. So a lot of our clients are buying new construction homes in Folsom because of a lot of the big incentives going on right now, especially as we're coming to a year-end close. Those builders are offering some pretty big incentives, so that's why a lot of clients are taking advantage of that, being in those newer areas. Now, when it comes to pricing, generally speaking in Folsom, I would say you can get a home in the price range $600,000 all the way up to probably the $2 million mark. The median sold price for Folsom came in at $762,000 this last month. So that kind of gives you a good range that a lot of the homes are selling in the 700s in this Folsom area. And if you'd like to know more about Folsom specifically, or some of the neighborhoods and the new construction, I'll link a few videos that we've done previously so you can check those out as well. All right, so let's hop into number 2, Rancho Cordova. Rancho Cordova gets mentioned a lot, and I'll show you why. And I'm following up specifically after Folsom, California, because the two often get compared to each other when people are buying homes. And one of the main reasons is going to be the new construction. There's a lot of new construction going on in Folsom, but there's also even more new construction going on in Rancho Cordova. So those people that are looking for that are kind of comparing the two. And you'll see on a map here is that they're not terribly far apart. And this is the reason why they get compared a lot. So right here is going to be kind of Rancho Cordova, and Folsom is going to be kind of up in this area right here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, all that new construction is going on in Folsom Ranch for the Folsom area right here. But when it comes to Rancho Cordova, all the new construction, or most of it, is kind of in this section right here, really south of Highway 50. Now, even though this is roughly only a 15-minute drive, you could take a back road right here from this newer construction part of Rancho getting into Folsom, and some people may do that. For instance, a lot of our clients are maybe working in Folsom or want proximity to the shopping that we discussed in Folsom, so they like that. You can also take Sunrise Boulevard down here and get on Highway 50 and get into Folsom as well, or beyond to Lake Tahoe. So that's kind of a big reason of why people make that comparison. But when it comes to Rancho Cordova, the main difference is if you're going to be doing some online research, you may see mixed reviews for a variety of reasons. But when we're typically talking about Rancho Cordova or people moving in, they're typically talking about this newer part as we discussed. The rest of Rancho Cordova, kind of closer to Highway 50 here, is going to be a little bit different, and it does have a different feel just because it is older and more established. Now, there is some interesting parts here along the river which is Rancho Cordova, and kind of this way. So this part of Rancho Cordova is older, it's established, it's been around for a while. So it's a very different feel compared to this newer part of the development that we've been discussing. So that's something that you're gonna wanna know if you're reading online reviews. So technically it is Rancho Cordova, but if you were to drive the areas, I would say they are very different. Now, continuing with the comparison of why people may choose Rancho Cordova or Folsom, California, is I tell people there is typically a price tag difference. Now, even though I get more inquiries about people wanting to live in Folsom, there's usually that major price difference when it comes to housing. And a lot of the times when comparing new construction homes, what you can buy in Folsom, California is typically about $100,000 or more, comparatively speaking, to the same size home in Rancho Cordova. Also, there just happens to be more new construction homes, or what would be considered affordable new construction homes, compared to Folsom, California. So that's why people may shift over that way as well. Now, when it comes to schools in Rancho Cordova, just depending where you live and what location you're going to be living in, the school districts can change. So you can either be in the Folsom Cordova Unified School District, or if you're going to be in that newer development area, some of those homes are also tied to Elk Grove Unified School District. So there is a difference there, and you're going to want to do some more deep dive research if you're going to be considering a home in either part of town. Now, when it comes to homes on the market, there was about 132 homes for sale on the market this last month. Now, the overall price range for Rancho Cordova, I would say starting about $450,000 to about $900,000, more or less. And the median sold price came in this last month at $563,000. So as you can see just on the numbers there, it is reflecting a more affordable market compared to places like Folsom. Now, one of the last things I will say is that even though Rancho Cordova on this newer development side doesn't have as much retail going on or shopping going on, it does have a nearby Costco, which people really love, especially near the new construction stuff. It's about 10 minutes away. You're also not too far from Highway 50, and there is a newer Raley's shopping center with like some banks, some restaurants, and some other things nearby. So I hope you guys are enjoying this video so far, and I'd like to know from you, where do you think the top suburbs are here in Sacramento? If I'm missing something, or if you don't agree with me, let me know in the comments down below. Love to always hear from you guys. Now let's get into the next top area I get asked about, and that's going to be Elk Grove. Elk Grove has been expanding like crazy. It's seriously one of the hottest areas that I've been seeing, and it really is because of a lot of the new construction development. I know we have clients buying the resale, maybe older homes in Elk Grove, but a lot of the new construction seems to be bringing people in. We've had a lot of clients personally relocate from the Bay Area, buying in Elk Grove because they like that proximity since it is located on the southern side of the Sacramento region. Now, just to show you on a map here, this is one of the things that stands out about Elk Grove for some people, especially if they're thinking about commuting or working in downtown as well. So right here, you have the 99. So if you're going to be living on this side of Elk Grove, you have the 99 going up towards downtown area right over here. But then you also have I-5. So just depending on which side of Elk Grove you're living in, on the in-between, you kind of have access to both freeways, which people really like. One of the things you should know about Elk Grove is that there is a variety of housing. You can go into more of the rural parts of Elk Grove and find an older farmhouse style home on a couple acres. There's big equestrian properties, and it kind of has this farm feel. But there's also the other part of Elk Grove where there's just new construction after new construction and just tons of homes developing. Now, when it comes to the newer development, it's going to be really in this area right here. So all this area right here is where it's getting developed like crazy. A lot of the builders have come in here, like Taylor Morrison, KB Homes, and a variety of other builders. So there's all sorts of price points and types of housing in here. But this is generally the place when people are thinking about new construction homes or newer areas. That's going to be kind of the newer development of Elk Grove right now. Now, another hot area that I typically get asked about is going to be the Laguna area or even the Laguna West area. Now, this is just a prime little location in my opinion because the homes here are a little bit older, established, but they're also really well maintained. You'll see some beautiful homes in this area, but they're also well landscaped, and there's some really cool housing here as well that you can see here that you will have access to small ponds in a backyard or kind of these man-made lakes. So it really makes kind of for a very interesting community and a dynamic. So it's a very beautiful part of town. Also, if you're not into all the new development where it seems a little bit bare at times, this is an area you're going to drive through. You're going to see a lot of beautiful trees, vegetation, and it really is just a hot area that people would still want to move into. Now let's get into the schools. Elk Grove is part of the Elk Grove Unified School Districts, one of the biggest and highest rated school districts in Sacramento. It also ties into Rancho Cordova, as we spoke about previously. A lot of the times people are looking to move into this area is specifically for the schools. There's highly rated schools all over the area, but more importantly, in these newer construction parts, that's just where the new schools are now, the newer elementary schools and middle schools coming in. So I would say Elk Grove overall, if schools are important to you, this would be a great option for you. Now, when it comes to real estate, there was 221 homes for sale this last month. And the price range in Elk Grove, I'd say you're going to be starting in the 500s, well into the $1 million mark. And the median sold price came in at $643,000 this last month. All right, so now let's go into the opposite side of Sacramento. We're gonna go into Roseville, California. Now, if you've been doing any research on Sacramento at all, Roseville almost always is gonna come up. It's a very popular area and it's been expanding quite a bit. Now, it's fairly large and there's a lot to choose from and it could be a little bit overwhelming. I will link a video down below about a full breakdown on Roseville, but let's get into what makes it stand out as a suburb outside of Sacramento. All right, so to pull it up on a map here, as you can see here, Roseville is really on the northeast side of the Sacramento region. And what makes it so popular is really the shopping, or what's known to be the shopping, as people like to call it. And that's going to be kind of like the Galleria Mall. Now, if we were to kind of zoom in here, you could see here that Roseville actually has two freeways or two highways. And you have Highway 65 right here intersecting with Highway 80. Now, Highway 80, you can actually keep taking north and it's going to kind of loop around and it's going to go into the north side of Lake Tahoe. So a lot of people like this side of Highway 80. One comparison you're going to see when comparing different parts of Sacramento is, I always like to say, there's two different types of people in Sacramento. There's the people that like to be along Highway 50 and there's the people that like to be along Highway 80. I don't know what it is, but I've grown up here my whole life, and I can tell you the people that grow up here and live here, once they find their place and their location, they tend to stick in that same corridor or that part of town. I don't know what it is, but it's a thing, okay? So there's Highway 80 and Highway 50 people. And so Roseville, it's got an interesting mix, because if we look into Roseville, there's really almost like an east, a central, and a west part of Roseville, okay? And I'll break that down really quick. And again, there's a video that I've done on this before, so you can check that out. But East Roseville is going to be kind of on the east side of Highway 80. Very easy. You kind of have central Roseville right here. You have a mix of housing, a little bit older, more established. There is some newer homes that were built probably, 20 years or so ago. And then you kind of have this west part of Roseville, which is just expanding like crazy. Now, I know my circles here are not as accurate, but at least that kind of gives you a depiction between the east, central, and more of like the west part. Now, the west part of Roseville is really where people ask me about if they're looking for new construction homes, okay? I'm personally a fan of East Roseville. I love East Roseville. I love that it's established, it's mature. There's really no new construction going on there, unfortunately, so not a lot of choices when it comes to housing. But on the west side of Roseville, all this right here is just expanding like crazy, and there is a ton of new development, which I've been talking about on my channel. But that's going to be an area where people want to consider. Now, with that being said, Roseville is one of the top areas when it comes to schools. And there is a few different school districts. So depending on where you live, the district can change for schools, and you're going to keep an eye out on that. Now, back to my map here. A lot of people say that if you're going to move into West Roseville, it's not really the same as the rest of Roseville. In a way, I would agree with you, because a lot of the times people talk about like the shopping and all the main stuff that's going on in Roseville on this part of town. But West Roseville is all the way out here, and this is going to be Blue Oaks Boulevard, okay? So this is one of also the main exits you would take into kind of the newer developments going on around here. Now, this west part of Roseville, when I was mentioning schools earlier, you have a new West Park High School here in the area, so that's a great thing. You're also going to have some newer middle and elementary schools up in this region. Now, one thing I want to make mention is that if you are looking at newer homes, pay attention to the school districts, because in kind of like this mid I'm just going to go a general approach down this area right here. The districts can change and they can intermix. So keep that in mind. There may be some schools that are not as highly rated. So if that's super important to you, keep an eye out for that. And then also you can always reach out to our team if you're looking at new builds or homes in the area. This is something we can help you out with as well. Now, when it comes to the amount of homes for sale, this last month, Roseville had about 276 homes on the market. Now, when it comes to the pricing in Roseville, if you're going to be looking at resale or used homes, you can definitely start probably in the 500s and work your way well into the $1 million mark. The median sold price this last month came in at $638,000. Now, one last thing I'll say is that Roseville right now has a lot of opportunities when it comes to incentives and deals on new construction homes. So if that's something that you're interested in, this is definitely a hot zone for that. We've personally had clients lock in really low interest rates or get huge incentives and discounts on their new homes just because there is more inventory being built here, which is causing the builders to also give these special promos right now. All right, let's get into the next top suburb. It's going to be Rocklin, California. Now, Rocklin is a personal favorite of mine. I've lived there for a long time, and it's just a great place. Now, it often gets compared to other places like Roseville or even Lincoln. So a lot of the times when people are looking to move into this general area, they'll be choosing between the three. Now, just to pull it up on a map here, I'll show you that Rocklin is kind of along this Highway 80 side, whereas we were covering Roseville just before. So as you can see, not a terrible difference. And even in certain parts between Roseville and Rocklin, you're going to see kind of an intermingling, and it may at times even be hard to tell which city you're in. So I'm going to share some neighborhoods that I get frequently asked about. And one of the areas that I get asked about a lot when people are thinking to move into Rocklin has to be Whitney Ranch. Whitney Ranch is a big master plan development with excellent schools, newer construction homes. It's kind of that newer development that was happening since the early 2000s. Now, even though there is some newer development going on right now, some beautiful homes with views, the pricing tends to be a little bit on the upper side. And so Whitney Ranch is just one of those hot areas that I get asked about a lot. Now, if you're looking for something a little bit more established, a little bit quieter, away from the noise, Whitney Oaks is another great option right here. Now, Whitney Oaks is going to be up in pricing. I would say in these areas right here, you have a golf course community. You also have a few gated neighborhoods where pricing can easily be about 1.5 million or more, with semi-custom and custom homes sprinkled throughout. But this is just a beautiful area in general. If you want to get away from the busyness, it is going to cause you to go further up Highway 65 and kind of go in this way, which is going to add a little bit to your day-to-day driving if you are commuting a lot. But if you're not, or you work from home, you may not even care. This is definitely a quieter pace of living, and it's a great place that I would look into between Whitney Ranch and Whitney Oaks. Now, if you're looking for something a little bit more closer to Roseville, if you will, kind of closer to the main part of things, Stanford Ranch is a great area, and I'm going to highlight it right here. And you can see here, it's also going to be next to the Galleria Mall and Costco. So this is a great location just to be in. You're kind of in amongst everything where all the shopping is. You know, you have Top Golf in Rocklin if you want some activities with the kids, stuff like that. There's a lot going on really in this corridor. Where you see Highway 80 and 65 connect, this is truly a popular zone right here where that any of the stuff you could need, it's in this area. Now, I do want to make mention on any of these suburbs that you're interested in or want to get more information. I've already done tons of videos and content about these areas, so I'll link a few of them down below. Make sure to check them out after this video. Now, Rocklin is part of the Rocklin Unified School District with some notable high schools such as Whitney High School and Rocklin High School. And so a lot of the times people are moving into the area because they know the schools are good. Now, if you're comparing Rocklin and Roseville, some differences might be that Rocklin is a part of PG&E, whereas Roseville, you still have Roseville Electric, which some people say is oftentimes cheaper, and they like the idea of being on Roseville utilities. But I'd say overall, if I have a client that's looking to move into Roseville or Rocklin, they would at least consider the other counterpart, and sometimes Lincoln as well, which is another beautiful area to move into. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but we also have Sierra College, which is a community college in the area. And then we also have William Jessup University, which is going to be closer to the Whitney Ranch side. Now, this last month, Rocklin had about 108 homes for sale on the market. I'll say the price range for a Rocklin home is starting about $600,000 to the $1.5 million mark or more, but the median sold price came in this last month at $700,000. So compared to Roseville, I'd say Rocklin is just a tad bit more expensive depending on the neighborhood that you're looking into. All right, number 6, we're gonna get into El Dorado Hills, California. Now, El Dorado Hills is definitely one of the more affluent places to live in the Sacramento region. I typically like to call it the Beverly Hills of Sacramento. But it's really on the very eastern side of the Sacramento region, and you're technically going to be already in El Dorado County, whereas other places that are near it, like Folsom, are going to be Sacramento County. So there is a little bit of a difference there. But El Dorado Hills is really in the name, it's hillside living. You're going to have a lot of beautiful properties, really the start of the foothills, and a lot of these homes do have views or even views of Folsom Lake. So it really is a gorgeous place to live. Now, one of the things about El Dorado Hills is that you're going to see a lot of beautiful nature spaces, a lot of oak trees, a lot of little open lands in between. But with that come the wildlife. So if you do like having property that has an open space behind or is on these kind of vegetated areas, you're going to expect to have some wildlife. So it's very common to see things like deer, turkey, maybe coyotes, or even a rattlesnake in the hotter months. So I know I just totally scared some of you guys off with that because when people hear about that, they think they're just like everywhere. I can tell you that I've grown up in Sacramento and I rarely see them, but it's just one of those things that you're going to want to know, that if you're not a wildlife fan or not willing to deal with that, it may not be the area for you. But it's still definitely one of the most beautiful places to live, I think, in Sacramento. Now, to show you guys on a map here, you're really going to be going east on Highway 50, as we talked about before, and El Dorado Hills is right here. Now, one thing that it gets compared to a lot of the times is Folsom right here, and all that new construction we were talking about is kind of right in this area. And there's a few different parts to it, and it tends to be a little bit more established. There's not going to be a lot of new construction going on in the El Dorado Hills area. But as you can see here, parts of it run down on south on Highway 50, which tends to be a little bit newer, more recent developments. But in this part of El Dorado Hills, I mean, it's going to be more older established. Now, once in a while, you will see, and quite frankly, people will buy lots and they'll build beautiful custom homes. So that's not abnormal to see. But you can also buy homes in El Dorado Hills that are going to be having beautiful views and very close to Folsom Lake. So this is one of the things that makes it stand out, in my opinion, is going to be the views. It's that hillside living that people really want and they cherish. And along this, I mean, the homes can really vary into the multi-millions of dollars, just depending on where you buy. Do you want that slower pace of life? If you want that slower pace of life, kind of separated from the busy kind of suburbs and people just jamming to work, El Dorado Hills might be a great opportunity for you. You're going to have a lot more drives and beautiful areas where you drive through, you're kind of going up the hills. Some people don't like that, and that's totally fine. But if you want that kind of separation, maybe a little bit more quietness, almost that nature feel, homes are a little bit further apart, it really is a beautiful area to live in. Now, even though El Dorado Hills doesn't have a lot of new construction going on, there's a few various developments. But one of the popular areas that's a little bit more established and has been around is going to be Serrano. And Serrano is a huge development. It really is a one-of-a-kind community. Now, Serrano, in my opinion, is a little bit on the outskirts because you are going to have to drive a little bit up this hill, Serrano Parkway, and this is where the country club is going to be. Now, around all this area right here is going to be almost villages or smaller gated communities. Serrano is really well known to be almost like country club living. There is private access to like pools, gym, pickleball courts, but you can also get beautiful properties that are semi-custom and custom as well. And if you'd like to see what this area looks like or more about El Dorado Hills, I'll link a video down below. Now, El Dorado Hills also offers some great schools in the area, but you are going to have a few various districts you may be a part of depending on the location that you live in. You could be part of the Buckeye Union Elementary School District, the Rescue Union Elementary School District, and the El Dorado Union High School District. So there's a few different variations going on here, and you're going to want to look into to the exact schools that are going to be tied to the area you're buying in. Now, as of this last month, there was about 167 homes for sale on the market in Dorado Hills. And the pricing, if you're going to be looking at Dorado Hills, I would say it's going to be starting from about $800,000 well into the $2.5 million mark or more, especially for a custom home. The median sold price came in this last month at $910,000. So as you can see, we're pushing the $1 million price point at the median sold price. All right, let's get into it. Last but not least, coming in at number 7 is going to be Granite Bay, California. Now, Granite Bay, in my opinion, is almost like a hidden gem of Sacramento. It's truly a place that a lot of people want to be in, but the pricing doesn't always make sense. It is more of an expensive market, more of a luxury market when people look at it, but there's also some more kind of smaller rural style properties as well that you can get into for a little bit less money. But when people typically think of Granite Bay, they're thinking about these huge, almost like mini mansion properties, and that's what it gets known for, or at least that's the idea that people have of Granite Bay. Now, to pull it up on a map here, as you can see, it's bordering the west side of Folsom Lake, and that's also a huge reason of why people like it. It's the proximity. A lot of people that want to be close to the lake, whether they have boats, jet skis, or just want to have access to nature trails, this is a beautiful place to be in. Now, Granite Bay offers a variety of types of housing, from the big luxury properties in really prestigious gated neighborhoods, or you can get kind of smaller farmhouse style properties on a couple acres. So it just really depends. There's a lot of in between, and the prices can vary. Now, there's some pretty famous neighborhoods in Granite Bay and some frequently asked about areas that people want to live in. Now, one of the most notable ones is going to be Los Lagos, and this is really well known because it's a prestigious gated neighborhood where Kings players like to live, or even notably Eddie Murphy's house was sold a while back. Now, Los Lagos is going to be kind of in this northern part of Granite Bay, as you can see, but there's going to be a lot of great neighborhoods around here as well. Now, anything really close to the lake, I would say, is pretty highly desirable. So a lot of these areas in here and neighborhoods like this, like Hidden Lakes, and this is going to be Douglas Boulevard. So Douglas Boulevard is going to be really kind of like your main entrance point coming from Highway 80 going towards the lake. So any areas right around here are pretty popular if you can get the right property. Now, if you're going to go a little bit south, there's also some beautiful neighborhoods like Tree Lake, and that's going to be off East Roseville Parkway right here going in. There's also beautiful neighborhoods in here such as Wexford, which is really well known and highly prestigious. Now, even though Granite Bay is more expensive, most of our clients are buying homes here pushing about $1 million to $2.5 million. So it is definitely a more expensive area to live in if you're thinking about this suburb outside of Sacramento. The median sold price in Granite Bay came in at $1.2 million this last month. And one of the great things that I think stands out for a lot of people is that Granite Bay is really just a different atmosphere. You really have to drive it to get a feel of what I'm talking about. You're gonna see a lot of mature vegetation, really well landscaped yards. People have pride of ownership here, and they love living here. I've talked to so many people that have owned homes in Granite Bay or are currently living in Granite Bay, and they don't want to move. If they did want to move, it would be just to upgrade in the type of housing that they want. And one of the main attraction points of Granite Bay is also the highly rated schools. You're going to be part of the Eureka Union School District, which has some excellent schools in the area. If you're thinking about making a move and the Granite Bay pricing still works for you, I would definitely consider checking this area out. All right, guys, well, there you have it. That is the top 7 suburbs currently in Sacramento that I get asked about all the time from people looking to relocate here into the area. I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 7 was your favorite? And are there some that I missed? And if I should know about them, let me know in the comments down below. I'll try to do a review for you in the future. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it's brought some clarity and some value to you. If you wouldn't mind, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you can get notified every time we release a new video. If my team and I can ever help you with buying or selling a home in the Sacramento area, please feel free to reach out to us. Our information is right down below. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next video.